Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at something truly mind-blowing. The ancient Tamil maritime tradition actually stands as one of the world's earliest, most organized oceanic trade systems, literally connecting the Indian Ocean world with Rome, Greece, Arabia, and all the way to Southeast Asia and China. Now, when we think of ancient history, we usually picture massive stone pyramids or, ruined temples. But sometimes, the absolute most staggering revelations come from the most fragile items imaginable. We're going to examine a single, incredibly precious artifact that completely rewrites our understanding of global commerce. It proves that ancient Tamils and Romans were pulling off international business deals so massive they rival the corporate mergers we see today. So, we begin with a fascinating mystery. How did a 2,000-year-old torn piece of scrap paper, discovered in an Egyptian garbage dump of all places, turn out to be a highly complex Greek contract between a merchant in Alexandria and one in the ancient Tamil port of Muziris? You heard that right. This wasn't carefully preserved in some royal archive. It was a discarded piece of trash. But when scholars finally deciphered the text, they were absolutely stunned. They were looking at a highly technical trade agreement connecting Egypt directly to Muziris, a bustling port in the ancient Chera kingdom. It's this incredible physical validation of exactly what ancient Sangam literature, like the Patinapalai, Akananuru, Purananaru, and Silapatikaram, have been telling us for centuries about these thriving cosmopolitan hubs. And it perfectly backs up foreign records from Greek, Roman, and Arab writers, like Pliny, Ptolemy, and the author of the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea.
This humble scrap, which is now sitting in a Vienna museum and often called the Vienna Papyrus, outlines an absolutely massive trade agreement. And listen, these ancient trades weren't just, two guys swapping goods on a beach. Not at all. This was a highly sophisticated three-party financial system. You had the merchant in Alexandria, the merchant in Muziris, and a dedicated financier who brokered the massive intercontinental loan needed to make the trade happen. It's essentially ancient venture capitalism. This papyrus is literally the earliest surviving record we have of this level of financial complexity operating across such a vast distance.
Let's look at what the ship, specifically named the Hermopollon, was carrying from the Chera kingdom. The goods loaded onto this vessel in Muziris were the absolute ultimate ancient luxury items. The papyrus specifically lists heavy ivory, exotic fragrant perfumes, and priceless textiles. But we also know from other sources that these ports were exporting massive quantities of pearls, spices, beautiful beads, precious stones, and even elephants. And the ancient merchants? They were meticulously precise. The reverse side of the contract contains an itemized list detailing the exact weights and values of every single item on board. These Tamil products were actively shaping the highest-end luxury markets across multiple continents.
The total monetary value of this single ship's cargo was a staggering 7 million sesterces, which was the standard ancient Roman currency. I really want that number to just sink in for a second. 7 million sesterces. When we read ancient texts, it's kind of hard to grasp the true economic scale of their world, right? Well, the Muziris Papyrus doesn't leave us guessing. It spells out the bottom line for this one specific voyage. Keep in mind, this wasn't an entire fleet. This was just the cargo of the Hermopollon alone. To put that into perspective, this brilliantly illustrates the astronomical wealth involved. Imagine a hardworking soldier in the Roman army, putting his life on the line every single day. He took home about 1,000 sesterces for a whole year of labor. That means it would take a Roman soldier 7,000 years to earn what was sitting in the hull of the Hermopollon on a random Tuesday. The modern equivalent of this cargo is easily in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. It just completely shatters our traditional imagination of ancient commerce. And let's talk logistics, because the physical journey is unbelievable. Goods were loaded at Muziris, shipped to a Red Sea port, carried by camels across the desert, and finally sailed down the Nile to warehouses in Alexandria. The fact that they managed this 2,000 years ago is just breathtaking. It required Tamil sailors who had completely mastered expert ship design, monsoon navigation, and deep-sea voyages to survive the treacherous open ocean crossing. Then the entire cargo had to be strapped to camel caravans for a brutal desert trek and finally reloaded onto riverboats. It was literally an intermodal supply chain functioning like clockwork. Ancient risk and taxes, the legal framework of Tamil-Roman trade. Let's briefly look at how remarkably modern their business practices were. The contract featured a strict liability clause stating that the financier was not responsible for tsunamis, storms, or pirate attacks, placing all the physical transit risk squarely on the borrowing merchant.
This is exactly like reading a modern freight contract. The financier putting up the money was protecting their capital. They explicitly wrote down that if the ocean unleashed a tsunami, or if ruthless pirates hijacked the cargo anywhere along that insane ocean, desert, river route, the financier was entirely off the hook. It shows a highly developed, surprisingly modern legal understanding of liability.
Upon reaching the destination, the Alexandrian merchant faced a massive 25% import tax paid to the Roman Empire, leaving the remaining 75% of the goods' value to be sold for their profit margin. Because, well, you literally can't escape taxes, not even in antiquity. The Roman Empire funded its massive armies by taxing these incredible luxury imports from the Tamil region. And this profound Roman-Tamil exchange is exactly why direct archaeological excavations at ancient Tamil port cities like Pumbuhar, Arikameru, Korkai, and Muziris have uncovered ancient wharf structures, bead workshops, Mediterranean ceramics like rouletted ware, Roman amphorae, and hoards of Roman gold coins. The profit margins on both sides were just staggering.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that executing such a complex, high-stakes contract reveals the profound mutual trust that existed between ancient Tamil and Roman merchants, separated by thousands of miles. Actually think about it. There was no internet, no wire transfers, no international police force to hunt you down if you broke a deal. They were doing billion-dollar business based purely on reputation and written agreements. This intense maritime wealth totally transformed Tamil urban life, elevating their merchant guilds, their art, and fostering a cosmopolitan culture that turned Tamilakam into a true global economic force.
Which leaves us with this final staggering thought. If just one torn piece of paper represents a flawlessly executed transaction of this magnitude, what was the true, unrecorded scale of the ancient Tamil maritime empire? How many thousands of undocumented fleets sailed out not just to Rome, but establishing deep cultural and commercial connections across Southeast Asia? I mean, we see their linguistic traces, inscriptions, and temple architecture all across Sri Lanka, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Cambodia. The Muziris Papyrus is just one tiny window into an ancient global economy. It absolutely proves that Tamil maritime heritage remains one of humanity's most remarkable oceanic traditions. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what you think you know about the ancient world.